Welcome to our channel HASHMICLINICS.
Hello everyone and welcome. Today we're going to put a really fascinating and I think often underutilized remedy under the microscope, Ammonium muriaticum. We're going to explore why this remedy, with its deep-seated grief and physical sluggishness, might just be the missing piece in some of your most challenging chronic cases.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the core essence of the remedy, its soul, and then we'll move step by step through its mental and physical picture, compare it to some lookalikes, and wrap up with the key clinical pearls you can take right into your practice. Okay, first things first. We absolutely have to understand the foundational blueprint, the constitutional signature of the Ammonium muriaticum patient. This is often our very first and most important clue.
And H.N. Guernsey gives us this absolutely unforgettable keynote. It just perfectly illustrates the remedy's inherent sluggishness. I mean, picture it. A patient who is large, kind of puffy and heavy in the torso, but then you look down and their legs are strikingly thin, almost weak-looking. This disproportion is such a powerful visual clue.
Now look, these points on the slide aren't really separate items on a list. They all weave together to create a single unified theme. You've got this profound systemic sluggishness, right? It's almost like a low-grade septic or typhoid state. And this shows up physically as thick, glary mucus everywhere, and subjectively, and this is so weird and so characteristic, as this internal turmoil, a sensation of boiling in the blood vessels.
So let's pivot to the mental and general sphere. It's fascinating to see how this physical sluggishness is perfectly mirrored in the patient's emotional landscape and their overall vitality. The mental state, well, it directly mirrors the physical sluggishness. It's all about a deep, internalized sorrow. But this isn't the loud, sighing grief you'd see in, say, Ignatia. No, this is a blocked state. The patient is just full of sadness, but they simply cannot weep. And because that emotion is trapped, it often leaks out as irritability, a real desire to just be left alone, or even an involuntary, almost chemical, aversion to specific people. Okay, so with that constitutional and mental foundation solidly in place, let's add the next layer of detail. Let's get into the specific, characteristic symptoms that pop up system by system.
So in the respiratory system, the guitar is front and center. But you've got to notice the quality of it. It's an acrid, burning, watery coryza, so harsh it literally corrodes the upper lip. And this goes hand in hand with this incredibly frustrating sense of obstruction, like something is stuck high up in the nose that you just can't clear, no matter how hard you try. All right, now this is one of the most reliable and peculiar keynotes in our entire Materia Medica. I mean, this specific description of a stool that's hard requires a huge effort to pass and then literally falls to pieces as it emerges. It's almost pathognomonic for this remedy. You hear this? You write down Ammonium Mur. And here's where it gets really important for us as prescribers. The interplay between systems. You see things like hemorrhoids appearing after a suppressed leukorrhea. You see severe GI distress. We're talking diarrhea and vomiting, occurring specifically during the menses. And you've got to note that really unique menstrual modality. The flow is significantly worse at night.
I want to just pause here for a second, because this is a golden keynote. This strange, rare, and peculiar sensation of icy coldness right between the scapula, which is not made better by putting on a warm sweater or a blanket, that is an incredibly high-grade guiding symptom. When you hear this in a case, your ears should perk up, and you should immediately think of Ammonium muriaticum. So that theme of tension and contraction continues right into the extremities. Patients will actually complain that their hamstrings feel painfully contracted when they try to walk. The sciatica also follows this really clear pattern. It's at its worst when they're sitting, but it's completely relieved by lying down.
Understanding what makes the patient's symptoms appear, what makes them worse, or what makes them better, that is absolutely critical for a precise prescription. So let's really dig into the causes and modalities here.
And the triggers, well, they connect directly back to that mental picture we painted earlier. Ailments often kick off after a deep emotional blow, unresolved grief, a deep humiliation or mortification. And then, on the physical plane, we see this perfect parallel, pathology that arises after the suppression of a natural process, especially something like leukorrhea.
This table gives us a fantastic overview, a real at-a-glance summary. The aggravations have a very clear rhythm to them, which we're going to look at in a second. And notice the key ameliorations. Open air, continued motion, and a warm bath can all bring some relief. And for that sciatica specifically, lying down is the best thing they can do.
Now this is really, really unique. The aggravations, they follow a predictable schedule right through the body. Head and chest symptoms are worse in the morning, then the abdomen gets worse in the afternoon, and finally the limbs and skin get worse in the evening. This clear temporal division is a defining feature of this remedy's rhythm. It's just so characteristic.
Okay, so to really sharpen our understanding, let's place Ammonium muriaticum alongside a couple of remedies that it can be easily confused with. This differential diagnosis is absolutely key to accurate prescribing.
So, they both share that peculiar crumbling stool, right? That's the confusion point. But the key difference is all in the details. Mur's stool is often described as being like sheep dung. And, this is the clincher, it's accompanied by that very characteristic urinary symptom, the need to press on the abdomen to urinate. That's absent in Ammonium Mur.
Now here, the difference is really one of degree and pathology. Ammonium Mur has the sensation of shortening. Causticum takes this to the next level. You have actual, objective, visible contractures and even deformities. You could say causticum represents a more advanced, more fixed pathological state. All right, to wrap things up, let's distill all this information down into 3 actionable prescribing pearls, the key things you should absolutely burn into your memory for your clinical practice.
First, always remember that striking physical picture, the large, puffy torso with those disproportionately thin legs. Think of this as your entry point, the very first sign that should make you think, could this be Ammonium muriaticum? Second, that strange, rare, and peculiar sensation, that icy coldness between the shoulders that just doesn't get better with warmth. This is an incredibly reliable guidepost. It points directly to this remedy. And third, that sensation of painful tension and contraction, especially in the hamstrings when they're walking. This feeling of being too short, well, that often just cinches the prescription.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. I want you to reconsider some of your past difficult cases. Was there a history of a suppressed leukorrhea? Was there an underlying unexpressed grief that you just couldn't quite reach with other remedies? Maybe, just maybe, the answer was hiding in plain sight with this fascinating, often overlooked remedy. Thank you for your time.
Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi is a distinguished homeopathic physician, educator, and researcher with over 4 decades of clinical and teaching experience. He is widely respected for his deep command of Materia Medica, repertory, and constitutional prescribing, combined with a practical, patient-centered approach. Dr. Hashmi has dedicated his career to training generations of homeopathic doctors, blending classical principles with modern clinical insight. He is also known for his innovative work in digital homeopathy, developing educational content, clinical tools, and AI-assisted systems to enhance remedy selection and case analysis. With a strong commitment to ethical practice and lifelong learning, Professor Dr. Rafat Hashmi continues to guide, inspire, and elevate the standards of homeopathic education and patient care.